because we have new stuff that we like.
Yes.
It's cool in there. It's so quiet.
Go ahead.
Okay, welcome to A Mirror Darkly, Unbridled Inquiry. So today's topic is Fear Not the New, and guess what? We have a new system going on up here. So we got a new hard drive.
New computer.
New computer, and so you are seeing
monitors.
us now. The monitors were last week.
Did
we
have
already had
last
them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
because
it
I
shows
used them on
That's
Sunday.
right.
So the monitors are now old.
Yeah, a week old now.
Yeah, and
The computer is brand new.
Yeah, the computer just got put in, and we're going to hook up the other camera tomorrow for service. We are now broadcasting in high definition, and there's numbers that go with it that I don't do numbers. So, anyway, so we're really
Just
glad
to give
you
you
guys
an
are here.
indication of the difference between the old system and the new system. The old system, broadcasting the webcast, we would use 90 to 95% of the system resources. Right now we're using 14% of the system resources.
Toggling 13, 14, 16.
Yeah. So a huge difference in the capabilities of this new machine versus the 10-year-old dinosaur that we had been using.
Yes. Well, with the old computer, so one of the tasks of this computer for church is to also run the PowerPoint slides for the monitor for the front of the sanctuary. And I discovered that having the little dancing angel on one of the Christmas songs, and it's only in PowerPoint for only 5 or 6 slides, and all it does is it just moves like this.
Two
and
different places.
Just boom, back and forth. And it was messing up the live stream.
Yeah, it's overtaxing the system.
Yeah, so
that's how bad the old system was and how close to the edge we were running it.
Mm-hmm. And last week he had a video he wanted to show, and I told him, I said, I don't think we can show it. It's going to mess up the live stream. And so, yeah, we didn't show it. So, although thankfully it was a song in Hebrew, and one of our praise band leader, she knew the song, so she sang it quickly for us. So, that was nice of her. So yeah, we were very pleased about that. But anyway, we are here, and we are ready to start a new topic, and we are excited about our new toys here.
Yes.
And so we are not afraid of these new things. But I think that this is a good topic because a lot of new things are happening. Some old things are dragging on, like COVID is, they think that LA County now has the UK version of COVID. So we're not allowed to, if we go outside of Southern California, for non-essential travel, we have to quarantine for 10 days, which is funny because like where we're sitting right now, let's see, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. We're 10 miles from the border of LA County and Kern County. So if we drive to, my daughter likes for me to take her on drives in the evening because it calms her down. And a lot of times I'll drive out to Avenue A and drive along there. Now, as long as I stay on the right-hand side of Avenue A, we're fine because we don't have to quarantine for 10 days. But if I were to go on the left side or even onto a desert road north of Avenue A, we would be in Kern County, and when we got home, we'd have to quarantine for 10 days.
If we go visit anybody we know in Tehachapi or Rosamond.
Yes. So as long as we stay in Southern California, we're fine. So anyway, it's gotten pretty absurd here. So if our schools hadn't shut down, they would be shut down already. So I'm glad we stayed virtual all year, because switching back and forth, you lose too much instructional time. Personal opinion.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, so here we are. So please comment, ask questions, participate in the discussion. We run the show in 10-minute segments. So at the end of the segment, if anybody has had a comment or a question, we will add it at that time. I again was having trouble with the watch party feature on Facebook. And so I don't have a watch party going. So hopefully some more people will join us. But so there are people I couldn't invite because it limits how many people you can invite unless you're doing a watch party. And even that's limited. So what else was I going to say? Oh, if you have a topic, a show topic, please let us know.
Yeah,
because
comments, text.
You can email info@theology.edu. Because we want to do topics that you're interested in. So we do all sorts of topics. Mm-hmm. If you look at our past shows.
Look at last week's.
Yes. I had to talk about masturbation in front of my mother. She was listening. She didn't say anything to me after the show. But I had to talk about it in front of my mother. So anyway, be not afraid of the new.
Yes. And of course, it's natural for people to be afraid of new things, primarily because oftentimes they don't understand the new thing. So, for instance, there have been weird conspiracy theories regarding the new...
Our banner's not up.
Oh.
I rely on that to hide my fat rolls.
I can fix that. I just forgot to do it. There it is.
It still doesn't work, though. I'm on the light side of it.
Oh.
So, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Those aren't new.
Yeah. Anyway, 5G for cell phones. Mm-hmm. And you have some people that imagine that somehow it's going to do something bad to your brain or do something bad to you health-wise. And, of course, they figured that with 4G and 3G. And some people feared it with cell phones in general.
Well, some guy in Walmart stopped me. This is years ago when I had a Bluetooth ear thing in my ear. And he was an old guy, and I was in the hardware section looking for something, and he said to me, that's going to give you a brain tumor. You shouldn't have that close to your head. And I was like, no, that's not a thing. So,
no.
And
see, the reason it's not a thing and why people shouldn't be afraid of it, but see, the problem is most people don't know enough physics to understand how these things work. That is, the only kind of radiation that can harm you is what's called ionizing radiation. Cell phone signals, whether it's 4G, 5G, whatever it is non-ionizing. That is, there is no way for it to physically cause any changes in you. You will suffer more damage from going outside and sitting in the sunshine than you will from your cell phones, regardless of what kind of signal is being generated. Non-ionizing radiation simply doesn't have the physical capability of doing something to you. It's just the nature of the system. But some people still worry about it, which is odd. But that's generally the reason most people fear the new is because it's unfamiliar and they don't understand it. And lack of understanding engenders fear. People are afraid of what they don't know. And what's kind of sad is that people, rather than trying to understand what's new, will simply embrace the fear and don't try to find out whether or not it's hazardous. Then there are things that are actually quite old that for whatever reason people have developed fears for. For instance, vaccines. The first vaccine was done back in revolutionary times in the United States. That is, the first smallpox vaccines, Benjamin Franklin's kids and John Adams' kids and people like that were getting this vaccine. And they did have some worry about it, but they went ahead and did it because the disease was such a bad thing that it was worth the added risk. So I've never the reason that people nowadays some people fear vaccines is because they have lived in a world for so long where you don't have to worry a whole lot about catching anything. I mean, the pandemic is the first thing that has gotten people worried in decades. Most people don't remember the polio problems back in the 1950s or 40s, or Franklin Roosevelt being in a wheelchair as a consequence of having been exposed to polio when he was younger. And so people up until recently, haven't seen the need for vaccines because
Well,
Nobody's sick.
there was that one doctor too that published that paper saying that
Which was-
vaccines cause autism, and that's not the case. There are people that are were sensitive to, in the vaccine they were talking about specifically, sensitive to some of the other parts of the vaccine that were. It's like it's the non-active ingredient, but it's what they put it in to make it like
But they don't
liquid or
use
whatever.
that anymore, anyway.
Right. So they changed that because some people did have reactions to it, but
But so far as that paper that was in the Lancet, it was withdrawn and
it's been
repudiated.
debunked. He has had his medical license removed. He is totally a charlatan. But
He was
people,
doing it for financial gain.
yep, and people though hold on to that, and it's like, well,
Like
I don't
a
want
dog
my
on a
kid to get
bone.
autism, and it's like your kid's not going to get autism from that. So,
He or she may die from some illness that could be easily prevented.
yep,
So I am old enough that I had several of the childhood illnesses that my children did not have to suffer from because there were vaccines for them.
Yes.
They didn't have to worry about getting the mumps or the measles or many of the things. They didn't. Of course, they don't even have to get smallpox vaccinations anymore because thanks to smallpox vaccinations over the last few decades, smallpox is extinct.
yep.
So it doesn't even exist anymore. Polio is virtually extinct too. It should be extinct within the next year or two, which is a good thing as well.
Yeah.
So
Well, it was interesting because I have the vaccination scar on my arm, and my sister doesn't have one. She's 13 years younger than me.
Yep.
And I asked my mom, I said, when does Misty get her vaccination? And she said, well, they don't do it anymore. I'm like, what? What if she gets it? You know, because I didn't know what the vaccine, and I just called it the vaccination because that's what that was. That was your vaccination. It wasn't like a group of medications that you could be given. So it was just, this was your vaccination. And so I was like, well, what if she gets it? And it's like, if it's been eradicated, there's no point in getting it.
Yeah,
so
you can't get
I think
the
they have
illness.
a small amount in
there's two small caches of the virus, one in someplace in Russia and one here in the U.S.
under like
Under
strict
frozen
security.
conditions
Yeah.
and security,
Yeah.
just in case there's some value that can be derived from the vaccine at some point in the future, because you never know.
Yeah.
But odds are that it will not ever serve any useful purpose.
Yeah. I've gotten my flu shot because, well, I usually do. There's been a couple years I've missed it by accident, but I've gotten my flu shot. I've gotten the shingle shot. And the flu shot this year is really important because they're finding that people who've had their flu shots have less trouble with COVID if they get it. And then as soon as I can get the COVID vaccine, I will, because I'm tired of worrying about it. I'll still wear a mask and still be, you know, careful and stuff, but it won't be like this like little threat in the back of my head. So I'll be able to go back to the classroom without worrying and,
Yep, as
you
soon
know,
as it's
have a life.
available.
So,
Waiting for Kaiser to let us know we can get it.
yep.
So 90% effective rate too, which is better than the flu shot usually
Yeah.
is. So it's really good.
Yep.
And the process of developing this particular vaccine is helpful in that it will speed up the process for any future problems that may come along.
Yeah.
They've
And
learned
that's
a lot
something
from
that's
this.
new too.
Yes.
And people that don't understand it and haven't read up on it,
Again, people are afraid of the new because they don't they embrace the fear without bothering to find out, well, what is this new thing?
right. And they actually found out that one stage of the testing they don't even need to do anymore because they have such good microscopes and they understand viruses so well that the very first part of this, I mean, the vaccine for this for the coronavirus was actually developed a year ago, December, I think it was.
No, it's in January.
Or January. So a whole year they've had the vaccine, but they had to do the testing.
Make
And-
sure it was effective.
Yeah, and that could have taken at least 5 years. A lot of people can die in 5 years.
Yeah, but they sped up
So-
the process, and so we get it quicker.
Yep.
So we're entering the Star Trek type of... yeah, well, from the standpoint that if you watch some of the episodes, some planet is devastated by some pandemic, and so Dr. McCoy is up there coming up with a solution, and within the hour of the program, they have solved the problem.
Yeah.
We're getting to that level.
Right.
Which is not a bad thing.
Really, all we need are just better writers, I think.
Yeah.
For our show.
Talk to God.
Yeah.
He's the
ultimate
author.
writer, yes.
Biblically, you don't see this fear of the new. I mean, you have statements like in Luke chapter 5, verse 39, no one after drinking old wine wants the new, for they say the old is better. Well, with wine, yes. But you also have, for instance, Ecclesiastes 7:10, do not say, why were the old days better than these, for it's not wise to ask such questions, because the good old days aren't. I keep pointing out, I don't know if anybody bothers to read any of the books that I've recommended or the website I've recommended. I will do it again. humanprogress.org, Stephen Pinker's book, The Better Angels of Our Nature, Stephen Pinker's book, Enlightenment Now, Peter Diamandis' book, Abundance, what else? Matt Ridley's book, The Rational Optimist. What you will learn from any of these things, and there are other things, other authors that have talked about the same things, but these are some of the best known ones. We are living in the most prosperous, healthiest, least violent period of time in human history. That is, we had an episode, 2 or 3 weeks ago, where we talked about the fact that the world is not going to hell in a handbasket. People are always afraid of that, and you make more money if you are talking doom and gloom all the time, and people pay attention to that. And of course, we're hardwired to notice problems, because if you ignore problems, you end up dead.
Right.
But it would be helpful to recognize just how much progress we've actually made and how good things actually are. That is the problem. And anyway, we don't want to redo that episode. Go back and on YouTube channel or Facebook page and find the episode where we talked about all that in detail. But anyway, the Bible talks about the new covenant. This is something new that he hasn't done before, and it's a positive thing. The days are coming. This is from Hebrews chapter 8. Days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the people of Israel and the people of Judah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand to lead them out of Egypt, because they did not remain faithful to my covenant, and I turned away from them, declares the Lord. This is the covenant I will establish with the people of Israel after that time, declares the Lord. I will put my laws in their minds and write them on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. No longer will they teach their neighbor or say to one another, know the Lord, because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, for I will forgive their wickedness and remember their sins no more. By calling this covenant new, he has made the first one obsolete. And what is obsolete and outdated will soon disappear. It is, we don't have slide rules anymore. And I doubt very many people have warm longings to go back to using slide rules.
Right.
You don't miss buggy whips. One can go on and on. You don't want to use the Commodore 64 to access the internet.
Right. You don't even want to use whatever that was. It was here.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, the 10-year-old computer we have was not adequate for what we needed to do for doing this webcast or doing the live streaming on Sunday mornings. New is often better. Psalm 98:1, sing the Lord a new song, for he has done marvelous things. His right hand and his holy arm have worked salvation for him. Isaiah 43:19, say, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up, do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. Again, the concept of new is not negative biblically. New is fresh and something that you would perhaps want. So, for instance, another thing where people have embraced fear as opposed to actually finding out what's going on is when you think about GMOs, genetically modified organisms. And
I just ate a GMO. I had a banana.
yes. Well, actually, anything that you consume is genetically modified. And the reason for that is because it used to be to modify organisms took a long time. You had to selectively breed them, and it took a long time. But for instance, corn. It is radically different from the stuff that the natives in the New World initially started consuming. It has been changed enormously from the way it was way back then. You wouldn't recognize it. Apples have all been changed from what the original little pitiful thing was. Oranges, bananas, any food that we consume, meat products, chickens, beef, all of it, we have modified them to make them tastier and more productive and more enjoyable for us to consume.
The golden rice issue.
Well, yeah, that's a really bad one. There are people that have fought against the introduction of golden rice into various parts of the world where they suffer from a vitamin deficiency. And the golden rice provides that vitamin. Because of people working for the last 10 years or more trying to prevent it from getting to these people, thousands, hundreds of thousands of children have gone blind, which wouldn't have happened if the golden rice had been available.
And rice is a staple of their diet. This is people in the
Far East.
Yeah, in Asia, I'm not sure what countries, but countries like Cambodia, Vietnam, things like that, where rice is a staple of their diet, and all they have to do is have this golden rice, and they won't have to worry about blindness anymore. But there are people so freaked out over...
Like Greenpeace, to name somebody.
That they won't allow it. So it's better that children go blind than that they have this golden rice. And really, golden rice sounds really tasty. So, but it's got, maybe it has butter.
The problem with the opposition to genetically modified products is that people are getting sick, people are dying as a consequence of the resistance to this. And again, it's just because of fear. That is, people don't understand it, and so they think somehow it's nefarious. But it's something we've always been doing. We can do it quicker now because we understand genetics, and so we can just make the change in the genes and save, generations of carefully, selectively breeding something. But assuming that you're not afraid of your puppy dog or corn or bananas, why you would be afraid of genetically modified organisms is just bizarre, because everything that we touch has been genetically modified.
Yeah. Well, and I think another thing that is new that is going to be a tough pill for people to swallow is within the conversation about climate change, there is a conversation about the newest nuclear energy. And because we've all grown up on, the giant spiders traveling through town eating people because they're radioactive, and
failing to
Spider-Man
reckon
movies.
with that science fiction isn't necessarily real.
Yeah, it's not actually science truth.
Yeah, there's very little science in it sometimes.
Yes. But people are so afraid of nuclear stuff that that it may be really hard to get it off the ground. But it seems as though, the newest version of nuclear energy, there's the nuclear plants can't melt down, and there's no waste product because they use their own waste to create more nuclear energy. So it's kind of an ongoing cycle.
And the other thing to keep in mind about nuclear reactors, and this is something a lot of people don't quite understand, is that they're physically impossible for them to blow up. That is, what makes an atomic bomb versus what makes a nuclear reactor entirely different sorts of things. You cannot make a nuclear reactor explode. You're not going to get a mushroom cloud suddenly on the sky because of a nuclear reactor.
But I think, people in our age group remember 3 Mile Island and remember
And how many
Chernobyl.
people died at 3 Mile Island?
Don't know.
None.
Oh.
How many people got sick from 3 Mile Island? None.
What about Chernobyl?
Chernobyl, yes, because the Russians are stupid.
Well,
No, quite frankly, the design of that particular reactor was horrific, and the way they ran it was bad, and it was a disaster waiting to happen. Reactors in the West are never put together with baling wire and duct tape. It was not a well.
It's kind of the Yugo of
thing.
the nuclear energy
it was bad.
world. Well, and now California is shutting down its nuclear plants,
Yeah, as
and
if we
don't have electricity.
Yes, thank you.
There are areas of California going without electricity for days because part of it is Edison is worried about starting fires because then they get sued. So the infrastructure is really bad.
Yeah, well, again, it's not like we can't fix that.
Yeah, you would think. You would think.
But they don't seem to want to spend the money to actually do the fixing that needs to be done.
Right.
Going back to nuclear reactors, the other thing, too, is people are afraid of radiation. If you were living next to a nuclear reactor, say here in the United States, you would actually receive more radiation from the banana that you're eating than you would ever from the nuclear reactor. In fact, the bones in your body produce more radiation than...
Or your granite countertop.
Yes.
Everybody has granite countertops in their spiffy houses.
And there's
they're emitting radiation, and you're putting your food on it.
Oh, yeah. And see, the thing is, of course, you got this big yellow thing in the sky that is a nuclear reactor. You're being exposed to cosmic rays, radiation from the ground, from radium, from granite, from your bones, from bananas. Guess what? Most of it's not harmful. You're not going to get sick from it. It's not going to increase your rate of cancer. It's not going to harm you in any way.
Now, extreme exposure
will kill you.
If you watch the movie Radioactive about Marie Curie,
yes,
she was carrying a radioactive isotope around with her all the time, like she
but
slept
they didn't
with it.
know.
Yes,
they know now.
It glowed nicely at night. It was a nice nightlight. Well, and wasn't it the watch faces?
Yes, they did the watch faces with radium.
Yeah,
because it glowed by itself.
It's like, I can see the time any time of day or night.
Yes, until you develop cancer and die.
Your time is running out, is what it's telling you. Time's up, Buttercup. You're dead.
Yes. Sometimes the new can be a problem, and if it's something new that we don't understand, then you might want to be a little bit leery about it. But assuming it's something that we understand, there's nothing to fear. And so things like cell phones, this is old technology. We understand how this stuff works. I mean, it's like with radio waves, TV, it's electromagnetic energy. It's light. It's just it's in a wavelength you can't see, but it's just light.
Well, my old cell phone that was way smaller than this, because most teacher clothes don't have pockets, which to me is a huge design flaw. I used to stick my cell phone in my bra, and it was super easy to keep there. It was handy. I mean, I could reach it. If it vibrated, I knew it was going off. And one of our janitors said, "You're going to get breast cancer from that." It's like, yeah, no. It's not a thing.
Yeah, it's non-ionizing radiation. It's not going to do anything. Can't. So what's funny is people, it's hard to say they're scammers. They took advantage of people's fears of the new. And so they sold Faraday cages and said that you can take this and put it around your router and it will prevent the radiation from getting out and bothering you.
Explain a Faraday cage.
Okay, a Faraday cage it's made out of metal, and what it does is it blocks electromagnetic radiation. So your Wi-Fi router is, of course, broadcasting electromagnetic radiation because that's how the system works. So these people were selling Faraday cages to put around Wi-Fi routers to prevent them from irradiating you. And then the people would buy it, put it on, it worked. They got really mad because now they didn't have Wi-Fi anymore. Oh, well, because you're stupid, but it did exactly what it said it would do.
When you go into older buildings and your
Yes.
cell phone doesn't work anymore.
That's why.
Because it's built like a Faraday cage.
Yeah. If there's a lot of metal in the superstructure of the building, it can act as a Faraday cage and block signals.
Yeah.
So, wearing a tinfoil hat actually would block stuff. It kind of serve as a Faraday cage. Maybe not a very good one, though. You should actually get a real Faraday cage to put on your head if this is something that you're seriously worried about.
I recommend just clutching your pearls. That way you can still use your cell phone, but you can still be all stressed out about life.
Yes. People worry too much.
Wow, my eyes got really big in the camera. Like, in high definition.
Yeah, they can see our pores now.
Yes. It is it. No, I'm kidding. I don't.
So we got any questions or
Nope.
anything?
People are just happily listening along or napping or,
Yes. So, yeah. And then people, of course, get freaked out whenever there's an election and something new comes along, that somehow the world is going to end because we get a different president, different party, different whatever. And again, I keep reminding people that as human beings, we live for, 70 to 100 years, and that's a very small slice of time. Of course, for the first 20 years or so, we're pretty oblivious to what's going on in the world. So the last 50 to 70 years of our life is when we notice what's happening. It does not give us much in the way of perspective. And so knowledge of history, its primary value is that it gives you perspective and will keep you from being afraid of the present. People get freaked out when they see protests or violence or any number of various things that they think, oh, this is just horrible, we've never seen anything like this before. And the past is looking at us saying, hold my beer. The past is a horrible place, and the more that you study the past and the further into the past you go, the more you realize that nowadays, like I said, is really the most peaceful, most prosperous, most wonderful time that we've ever had as a species.
Yeah.
Now you see memes about first world problems. That's essentially what it is when we think in terms of what we fear regarding change in the world. See, the fear of the new, new things, fear not the new, do not be afraid of the new. Change is what bothers us.
Yes.
We don't like change. We get used to things, we like things the way they are, and it's disruptive. So, for instance, we got a new computer system, which meant that there's change. And me, as the one setting it all up, meant that, I had the system that we had, and I had it functional. Now I've got this whole new thing. I'm going to have to install everything and set it up and get all the stuff working, and that's a lot of work and time and effort, and why am I doing this to myself?
That's not fear of the new. That's just lazy.
Oh. Okay, so fear of change is sometimes just laziness?
Yes.
Okay.
But on the plus side, you don't have your wife complaining and stressed out all the time. So there's always that. So it was worth the effort, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I like it, too, the fact that we can use 11% or 13% of our resources rather than 95%, and everything is stable.
Yep.
And we have good quality video, and of course with the nice microphone, the audio shouldn't be too bad either. We're not getting any complaints from anybody that I know of.
It's because they're all blocked. They can't do anything.
They can't they can't actually hear what we're talking
Well,
about.
and the really nice thing
working.
about this now is my primary screen.
Instead of the one out there at the front.
So I'd be like this, like, am I clicking the X?
Yeah.
I'd have people standing up there telling me, okay, a little farther, a little farther, a little farther, because I couldn't see it from there. And then with running the PowerPoint, I would start the PowerPoint, and the screen I needed was up there, and the screen that everybody else needed was on this monitor over here. So so I would have to switch it long distance. Well, I learned where to click without actually without needing to read the words. And so every Sunday I would just switch it back. And but now it's not going to be that hard. But
The
even
old
what we
system
had
barely
was
functioned.
right. But even what we had was an improvement over what we started with.
True.
I mean, I was live streaming from my phone. So if I got a notification or my phone went off during service, oh well, and I couldn't respond to anybody because my phone was on a tripod and very busy. So we got one camera, it was my camera that we were using for a while to record and then download and post, and So
Yeah, the system is much better.
yeah, this is way better.
So we've slowly improved as time has gone by.
And it's funny because on one of my teacher Facebook pages, somebody said now they have debit cards or credit cards for kids, and please can we teach them how to count money and the value of money before we start them on something that doesn't teach them to value money. And another teacher interjected saying, well, actually they can learn the value of money because they know they've only got this much money, and it's really controlled by the parent. It's not like they can just go out, and spend it on a car or whatever. So, but the point of it is to teach the kids how to function in our economic system. And really right now, nobody's using cash because you got to have exact change because there's a change shortage because of the pandemic. So and here's the thing, if parents are teaching their kids life skills like budgeting and things like that, whether you do it with cash or whether you do it with a card, it's the same thing. That's the value that they need.
Yeah.
And of course they need to know how to count money and what's a quarter and things like that. But really it's getting to be less and less of an issue. I mean, my daughter Tony collects all her change on the dashboard of her car. One day somebody's going to smash her windshield and steal it. I'm waiting for that day. But not that I want it to happen because it's still my car, my insurance. But it's just all sitting there, and she never uses it because she always uses her card. So, and this year I could never catch a bell ringer. I save up my change all year so that I spend it if I need to, but I try not to. So I get quite a lot of change by the end of the year. So when I see the bell ringers out for Salvation Army, I just dump all my change on them. Well, I had trouble catching. Like this time, I was coming out of Walmart. There was a bell ringer. I was like, yay. So I'm like, get to my car because I don't carry my change with me, especially since right now we can't use it. But I had it stashed in my car. So I get in the car and I pull up to the front of Walmart and she's gone. So I guess I just saved my change until next Christmas. One of these Christmases, Salvation Army is going to have a blockbuster year and be like, wow, we got so much this year because Nettlehurst over there hasn't been able to unload her change. But
the change from carrying paper money and coins to just using cards is simply a different way of handling the same sort of thing.
Right. Like my parents didn't teach me how to budget. I did not know anything about credit scores. I didn't know anything about any of that. When I would ask them about their finances, they would say, well, it's not your business. I'm like, okay. So I didn't know anything about it. Now, when our daughter Vanessa got older and she's like, well, where does our money go? He printed out our budget. And she looked at it and went, oh, and she quit asking for stuff because she knew that what a zero was. Basically that was our balance after we got paid and the bills went out, we had zero. So, but that was a huge learning experience for her. Now, our youngest daughter struggles with understanding the value of money, and it's an issue for people with bipolar disorder and mental illness issues in general. They have trouble with money.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't give money to homeless people. If they're hungry, I'll buy them food. If they're thirsty, I'll give them water.
It's not because the homeless person is nefarious
Right.
or wanting to do something bad. Is the person is standing there and they're asking for money for food. In their head at the moment, yes, that's what they're going to use it for. But then when they walk towards wherever the food is, if there happens to be a candy store next to them, suddenly all the money goes for the candy.
Right. So like our daughter, we'll give her money. She gets an allowance, and she'll be like, I'm going to use the money for this. Okay, great. When you get your allowance, we'll take you there, and you'll get this thing. Then not 10 minutes later, I think I'm going to spend my money on this. Okay. I mean, it just makes your head spin. We quit responding after a while. It's like, okay, whatever.
Well, yesterday I was
and then
getting,
she spent it on something else anyway.
Well, yesterday I was getting her allowance for the week, and she was with me. And she said, I want to spend the money on buying clothes. We drove by Ross, and she said, I want to get clothing at Ross. Okay, fine. Get the money, and said, then, okay, I want to do it at Walmart. But we got to go home first because I don't have my shoes on. And by the time we got home, she spent it on something else. It's just because it's whatever they see.
It's impulse.
It's impulse.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're being evil or trying to mislead you. It's just because of the illness, whatever they see first is what they'll spend. If they were walking by a toilet paper store, they would spend all their money on toilet paper first, even though they're hungry, just
Right.
because that's what they see.
Right. And so my point in that was, we have never shown her our budget, because if she saw how much money I make, she would have stars in her eyes, and
She
she would
wouldn't
think all
see
that
the
money is hers.
expenses.
And we've actually put off putting her on disability, because as long as she believes that money is hers, whatever money she gets for disability, she's going to spend on toilet paper and potato chips. Maybe not toilet
Or
paper,
whatever.
because you can't get toilet paper anymore. But, well, there was a time when she was first getting her allowance, she got $20 a week. She would spend $20 on potato chips because that's what she wanted. And then, then the next week, $20 on Monsters, and the next week. And now we've kind of worked out a thing. She does her grocery shopping on, because she's home all week and we're gone at work and stuff. So she has to have food she can make for herself. So she eats a lot of microwave stuff. So anyway, so she shops. Grocery shopping with her is a nightmare, because you'll be like, okay, what do you need? Because I tried this before we go in the store. Okay, what do you need for this week? Let's make a list. Okay, so we'd have a list. And so she'd want, a couple of, healthy choice meals and maybe some pizza and some, jalapeno poppers or something. So there's our list. We go in. What do you walk by first? Well, there's a whole wall of Reese's peanut butter cups. So she wants to buy Reese's peanut butter cups. Okay, well, that's less money. Oh, and here's the other thing, too, is her paying tax. I just resigned myself to the fact that I'll end up paying the tax on anything she spends, because she doesn't understand that out of $20, you only get to spend 18 of it, because like the sales tax rate in California is close to 10%. So you really only get $18 to spend. That's not a thing. So
She can't wrap her head around
yeah.
it.
So anyway, so with her, she never saw our budget. Our middle daughter, I don't think we ever showed her, but it really wasn't a thing.
Yeah, well, she's the one out of the three that doesn't have any mental.
Yeah, and she didn't really, and she wasn't a big asker for things and stuff. So, but there was something, it was about teaching kids about money. Anyway, it's important that kids learn those life skills. And it's funny because they say, why don't high schools teach life skills? And they do. It's called consumer math, which I thought was a weird math class when Karen took it.
Students pay as much attention to those classes as they do to any of the others.
Yeah.
It's funny, you'll have parents say, my kids never learned about the Constitution or about this or about that, and I look at the requirements on the state of California's listing what they have to be taught and what they are being taught. The kids were taught this.
Yes.
The fact they don't know it is because
they didn't learn it. They weren't listening.
They weren't listening. They didn't pay attention. And you're shocked that they weren't paying attention?
Well, you know
Did
what
you
I've done
pay
in my
attention?
class? I've asked my class before. I'd say, okay, like they won't know something. I'll go, did you do this in second grade? No, they never taught us this. And I know full well they did. So I'll say, okay, which second grade teacher did you have? Mrs. Jones. Okay. So at lunchtime, I go to Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Jones, apparently you never taught this lesson. She's like, yes, I did. And I go back and go, wow, Mrs. Jones mad at you because you taught that lesson. I don't know what you were doing that day, but you missed it.
Yeah, well, it's like people that you get these stupid memes on Facebook. You know, in my day, we did the Pledge of Allegiance and we did this and that and the other. And I'm thinking to myself, well, they still do that. And the kids paid much attention to it now as you did when you were in school.
Actually, virtually, we do the Pledge of Allegiance because I sent home flags. I personally bought flags for each of my kids, really nice ones. They're kind of big.
Yes.
Sent them home with them, and if I forget, they remind me. But the first thing we do after I take roll is we do the flag salute. And they're all muted, and the ones that have their flags, they hold their flags up. They have to take off their hats or head coverings, unless they have something that, because some of my my black students, if they have a thing on their head to hold their hair together, they can't take it off, so that's fine. But, and like they don't have to take their headphones off because those aren't really head coverings. But anyway, so we follow all the flag etiquette things. Stand if you can. Some of the kids can't stand where they are because their mom has them like at the dining room table, like shoved up against the wall. So they can't get out. And so I'm like, so the rule is, okay, hold up your flag, stand if you can. If they can't find their flag, then they just salute someone else's flag in the camera. And I say flag for them to all hear, and they move their lips to it. So yes, we still do flag salute, even virtually.
And this is the state of California,
yes.
which everybody is convinced has gone off the deep end.
Right. We are, but not in that respect.
Yes.
That's still a law. That and PE.
Yes. But yet, if you ask the students, do you do flag salute, probably half of them will say, no, we never do that.
Now my parents know we do because they hear me say it every morning. Their kid
assuming
got a flag.
Assuming they're paying attention.
Yeah, exactly.
They probably believe the meme on Facebook.
That's
even
right.
so, they'll see the meme on Facebook. Yeah, that's right. What's wrong with the modern world?
Oh, gosh.
Can't win for losing.
Nope, you can't.
It gets annoying.
Well, I think what's funny, too, just to talk about virtual learning for a little bit, I think that parents now realize how frequently their kid gets in trouble. And all the parents in the class realize it because when Joey's misbehaving, it's like, Joey, pay attention to your screen. Joey, look up. Joey, what are you doing? Joey, can you hear me? And all the parents are hearing, Joey, 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 Joey. I don't have a Joey in my class. But they're, and so the parents have become very sympathetic to what I do all day.
Yes.
And actually, I got some really nice notes from some of the moms about, oh my gosh, you guys work so hard. We didn't realize how hard. And they're doing part of our job.
Yes.
Because if their kid needs help, like the first 2 weeks of school, God bless my parents, I would say, okay, kids, time to go get your adult, because not everybody lives with like their mom or their dad. So some are with their grandparents, some are with cousins. Some are in foster care, so we just call them their adult. So I'd say, okay, go get your adult. And I would see these parents walk in like, oh my gosh, what did I do in my life to deserve this punishment? And so,
yes, the parents are looking forward to school going back to the way it used to be.
And they're not looking at you like the kids are like the kids are looking at their cameras and participating and stuff. The parents are looking at the screen, so you're getting this look like they're looking through you, and they're scowling and putting their hands on the desk, trying to figure, because you're really asking the blind to lead the stupid, because the parents don't know any more about the technology than the kids do. So the parents are coming into this completely blind, and the kids don't know what to do. Now the kids are like super proficient, and so it goes really fast.
And this will be good for them, actually. See, this is the other aspect of things. That is, when you face challenges, it tends to be positive in the long term.
And that's what I'm seeing out of my kids, and this is what I'm telling my parents. This is really good for them. We're going to have really good, strong kids. There are going to be some that kind of get run over in the traffic and don't do very well. And for them, we have things in place like school counselors and things like that can help them.
That's always been the case. That is, you have a certain percentage of the students, whether you're doing it in person or not, that simply aren't getting it, that are not paying attention, don't listen, don't care.
Or their behavior is so bad around other kids. I know we have one kid on our grade level who...
You have some that are mentally ill.
Right. We have one student who on the daily, was kicking and biting his teacher. He was hitting other kids, really out of control behavior. And he's doing virtual learning this year, and he's doing fabulously. He's only had a couple of meltdowns, and his mom comes in and gets him back in order, and he's in class. And what we've learned from this is he is overstimulated by the other kids. So he may be a kid that stays on virtual learning throughout school.
Yeah, virtual learning will become a permanent thing, and it'll be an option that for some students this is preferable.
Yep. Well, for our oldest daughter, because of her mental illness, she has borderline personality disorder and bipolar 2, and she cannot be in a brick and mortar college. She tried it. She tried 3 different places. Was it 3 or 2? 2 different brick and mortar schools.
I think 3.
No, she went to FITM and Stony Brook.
Right.
And then that's when she was hospitalized twice. And then she went to University of Phoenix online to finish her bachelor's degree, and now she's doing her master's with Pepperdine. And
she's doing it virtually.
She does so well virtually.
Yeah, she'll be finished with her master's degree come June.
Yeah. And then she just has to finish her clinicals, and then she'll have her marriage and family therapy license, and she may go on and do her doctorate. But anyway, doing fabulously at school online. And it's funny because when I first got my master's degree, my mother was like real iffy about, like, is this like legit? And it was a rigorous program.
It was the new.
Yeah.
See,
are you sure this is a thing?
Virtual college is new.
Yeah.
Now, everybody's been dumped into it because of COVID, and so people that would never have done virtual learning are now doing it, and some of them will end up preferring that to the more traditional.
Well, and virtual master's degree worked for me because I had 3 children at home. I couldn't just leave and go to a university. Plus, we really don't have much up here.
No.
We have Cal State San Bernardino, which is like has a satellite school here.
In Cal State Bakersfield.
And isn't that what it is? Oh, it's Cal State Bakersfield that's here.
Right.
Okay. So anyway, and until they had the schools for money like U of A, the for-profit schools, we had nothing here. And University of Phoenix was pretty focused on like the business environment, not education. Now they've branched out more. But anyway, so when I did this, my mom's like, are you sure this is a thing? And I had gone to HR, and I said, if I get my master's in this, if I decide I wanted to go into administration, is this something I can use? Is this an okay university? And they said, fine. And so I ended up not using it for that. I just used it to raise my pay up to the top of the pay scale. And I used the information. I mean, I learned something.
Right.
I did it because I wanted to learn stuff. And I had been learning things, but I didn't have any paper to show for it. And I really wanted a paper to show for it because I'm that person. I want, like, when my girls were in Girl Scouts, I wanted to earn badges too. And I did. I earned badges. But because I will work for simple things. And, the
Gold Star.
Yes. Yeah. Give me a gold star and I'll do most anything. But anyway, but no, it was legit, and now it's like nobody even thinks about it. You know, even people that are supposed to be going to brick and mortar schools are online.
Right.
So
it's become a more common sort of thing now, and it's a permanent change in how our civilization will function.
Yeah.
Same thing with going to your doctor. A lot of that now you do virtually. This was new because of COVID, but a lot of that is going to become a permanent sort of thing. That is, why do I have to go in to actually physically be there when you can give me this, get the same thing just by doing it virtually?
Yep.
Saves everybody time, money, effort.
Yep. I mean, there are things you need to go to the doctor for because they have to
my
actually physically be.
Like my surgery, you actually have to be at the hospital.
Yeah, I wasn't willing for the doctor to talk me through it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to let you do that either. Nope.
How hard do I hit him with the mallet to put him to sleep?
Oh dear, no.
But yeah, but even still, like being able to see a doctor across state lines. That's now a thing.
Right. And that's new,
yeah.
that the laws were changed thanks to COVID.
Yeah.
And for some things we can't say thanks to because, again, the challenges oftentimes lead to something positive.
Right. Well, and really, honestly, COVID just accelerated things.
It accelerated where things are going anyway.
Yeah. Even the bad stuff.
Yes.
So the bad stuff got accelerated and the good stuff got accelerated.
And more good probably than bad
I mean, it's unfortunate as many people have died as they have.
Right.
But the other things have been good.
Right.
So, well, like just, my Weight Watcher meetings, I've been doing them online. And now they've opened up. Right now, our workshop is shut down. So we still have our meetings, our own little community meetings online. But when we go back to regular, they are going to have one meeting a week locally that people can go to. But then there's national platforms now, so people that are on Weight Watchers can go to any of those meetings. And if you're struggling with your weight loss, you could always go to as many meetings as you wanted to a week, but that means you had to actually physically go to that place.
Right.
And for some people, it's a time constraint. For others, it's like, I don't want to go one more place after work or whatever. And now you can just log into Zoom and get a meeting.
Right.
So, yeah.
And like with church services, we will continue probably from now on to
Well, we
do
better.
live
We've now
streaming.
invested a lot of money into it.
Well, it's just, again, you reach people that otherwise would have a hard time actually physically showing up.
Yep.
So.
And it's interesting, too, because the people that are staying away because they're concerned about COVID are actually yearning to come back.
Right.
They want to be back, but then having services online does allow people, and people that aren't even in town. Like one of the problems we've had with people moving away from our church is that they have trouble finding a place that they enjoyed this much in another location. So they could, you should always get together with people physically if you can, but they could always participate in our services, even watch them after the fact.
Yeah, it's
when they
very
come from their
difficult to baptize
services.
someone virtually.
Yes.
Or to give them communion virtually.
Yes. Yep. That's the one thing that we're missing out on is
Yes.
doing communion. We do have the COVID protected communion though. It looks like an hourglass, and on the top is the little wafer, and on the bottom is the juice, because we're Baptists, we do juice, we don't do wine. And so anyway, so we did it once. Maybe Bubba forgot. I should remind him that we have it. But anyway, everybody got their own, and then we went through the whole thing, and you just take the wafer and then you drink the juice and you're good to go.
That works.
Yep, it worked. So.
Yep, that was good.
Yep.
So new is not something to be afraid of. It is your first reaction to the new should be to try to understand it, not to fear it.
Right.
And it's not human nature to do it that way. But unless it's bad guys coming over the border, invading your village, you don't really have to be afraid of the new. Not in the modern world. You just have to try to understand it. And if you understand it, then most of the time your fear will go away.
And it's interesting, too, with people, I've had this discussion at work, is early adopters versus late adopters. And that there are people now wishing at work that they had been more on board with technology. Me, I just transitioned into it quite easily. It is taking a lot more hours than in-person teaching, I will say that. I'm working 10 to 12 hours about 6 days a week.
Well, getting everything set up takes
yes,
a lot of work.
yes.
Once it's set up, then it'll be actually quicker. I
Right.
think.
If I have to do this again, actually, I told my principal, I said, if they could guarantee us virtual teaching for 4 more years, 'cause that's how long I have until I retire, I would move somewhere else and I would just teach virtually from there. Well, for example, one teacher in one of my
That's right.
Facebook pages, her husband's in the military and they just got transferred. And she's like, how do I tell my students? What do I tell the school district? And I said, you're virtual. Ask them if you can continue virtually. Because
Doesn't really matter where you are.
yeah, because you can teach. I know one teacher, and I won't say who it is because I don't know if her district knows, But she's been staying with her parents because of COVID and stuff. She went to a whole nother state. She's been in Minnesota. She teaches her class every day. All of our textbooks, our teacher's editions are online. She's doing her job. It doesn't really matter where you do it from. So, but on the beach in Fiji, yeah, if you got an internet connection, you can teach from there.
Do a virtual background.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody would know the difference.
Yeah, we could be in Fiji right now. Nobody can't tell.
Yeah, the back of our church does not look like this. The back of our church is a giant green curtain.
Yeah, well, it's a green screen.
It doesn't. I was hoping it would make it. If you look by my arm, it's all speckly.
Yeah, well, that's because I'm trying to get this tighter so we don't get the speckles. The other thing to do would perhaps do better lighting. That might fix it.
Well,
too.
I'm thinking too that if we do like those circle lights,
the ring lights,
and then turn off the LEDs, because my classroom is dark when I teach, unless it's like a rainy day where it's really dark. I don't turn the lights on because I look old and tired. I mean, I am old and tired, but I really look it. But in the dark, I look amazing. So I just work with the light because my view board is
looking
huge.
Looking at the screen, it looks like we're pretty well lit, but I don't know if we had actual lights coming at us, we might do better.
In high definition, we have more color in our faces because we looked really washed out before. So I was thinking, like, should I get like some bronzer? Should I wear blush? What should I do to? I always wear eye makeup. Well, I try to. Sometimes I come without it and go, oops, because then I look like dead. But I always wear eye makeup, and that's what I normally wear, like in real life. So, but I'm noticing we have more. Like your skin is a little pinker this week, and and then you can kind of see my sun damage here. So there are different colors now on our skin. So, but I think if we do the ring lights, that might help.
Yeah.
So, because they're kind of designed for that. So,
yeah.
But we've gone over time.
Yes.
And we've had no comments. We've had a few people come in and join us. So
that's good.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed yourselves. Our topic next week is, it was another Be Not Afraid of...
See, I've got it right here.
Oh, look at you, Mr. Smarty Pants.
Yes.
My mom's listening.
Don't be afraid of science.
Too. Fear not science. Okay, so we will talk about science next week.
Yes,
so.
I'm not being afraid of it.
Okay. So, get your vaccine when it's available. Stay safe. Stay away from the UK.
Don't pay extra
COVID.
money for non-GMO food because there's no such thing that's
Yes.
non-GMO. So
Yes,
they're just ripping you
organics
off.
too.
The
That's
organics is a waste of time. I mean, you're not eating rocks.
Yes, and
organic simply means that it was grown in manure.
Which has more problems because of E. coli and whatnot. So,
as you're not going to catch E. coli from chemical fertilizers, and chemical fertilizers simply take what manure has and get rid of all the stuff that it doesn't do anything.
One of my favorite things to do in the produce section is go, I wonder if they have any genetically modified organisms here that I can purchase. And people look at me.
Yes.
So, but I like saying things like that. All right, we'll see you guys next week, 4 o'clock tomorrow, church, 11 a.m. Pacific time, if you need somewhere to worship.
Yes.
Quartz Hill Community Church on Facebook and YouTube. Have a good one, guys.
If I can get this.
And our daughter needs to not call us immediately after the show.
Yes, well.